with a lot of abuse, because Thanksgiving's coming up and people can't spend time with their families. So people are drinking more. People are doing a lot more things, and we have to understand that we have options, and a lot of times we don't see our options when we feel like we are stuck in a bind. So, voices to be heard. We decided to do this so we can talk about the abuse that people are having in their lives. And I see Mr. Kevin McNeil is coming on with me now, and we did a show with him about the 12 Project, and I was just so excited about what he was doing down in Atlanta that I had him come on with Voices to be Heard. So welcome, Kevin. Welcome to Voices to be Heard.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's a blessing. Tamara Randolph, my co-host for Voices to be Heard, she's under the weather. Nothing like COVID related or anything like that, but she's just not feeling well. So I said, well, she's going to give everyone their love and all that stuff. So that's a plus. So we know that have. Hold on, I got like this double thing going. So we have a lot of love out there.
Okay.
So with Voices to be Heard, as I talked to you before, it's like this gets a chance for people to call in, talk about some of the things they have been going through, maybe give some solutions to some opportunities to talk. Because as you know, Kevin, if people haven't seen the last show with you, give us a little bit of background on you, about how you have been dealing with people in abuse situations, as the many facets you've dealt with them in, as a police officer, as a minister, preaching in the pulpit, and then starting your 12 Project.
Yeah.
You know, okay, so talk about that real quick.
Yeah. I think one of the things I just released a new thing I did. I did a video called Trauma Kings, and teaching men how to be rulers over their trauma and emotions rather than letting that trauma and emotions rule over them. Not only this is not just for men, but the women who love them. A lot of times as men, we're missing intimacy, and one of the things that I discovered, being an abuse victim myself, is that I suffered in my decision-making, in my relationships with myself, with others, and it caused me to make improper decisions or not good decisions that led me to not be successful, but to survive, and surviving and living are not the same. And so that led me to really, I saw it so much in the world, police officer, I saw so much pain, and, I was locking people up, but it really wasn't the solution to the problem I was seeing. So I decided to stop policing and get on the other end. I think we're in a time right now where people are beginning to wake up and become more conscious. They understand that it requires work, to heal, and not just a desire to. So yeah, I started the 12 Project to make sure that people were understanding that they can get educated about their brains, their minds, and their environments, and the people they surround themselves with in their past, and how they can look back and confront those things in their past and learn from their past, and not try to ignore it, but learn some of the things. And then we can go back and teach our young people the same thing that we've learned, so they don't repeat the same mistakes.
When we talk about Voices to be Heard, it seems like it's so simple for people to just speak out about the things that happen to them. And I know when I was 9, and again, we talked about this before on the show we did with you, it's just that I know I didn't speak about the abuse that happened to me, and I was young at age at 9, and the sexual abuse that I had. So it seems that do you think this format is helping somewhat what people are hearing, or do you think this is just like throwing, salt into the water and hopefully it turns into salt water? I mean, what do you think about this? Because I'm always concerned about that.
Yeah, I think it's revolutionary. For one, you got 2 African American men on here talking about abuse and being abused and being victims, whereas in the African American community, that is unheard of. Most men try to warrior up and try to become macho and deny their past. And there's a reason there's more men in prison than, particularly African American men in prison than they are in colleges. There's a reason that African American men suffer from more heart failure, cardiovascular disease, and all kind of other unhealthy diseases. It's because we hold our pain in, and your pain and your emotions so connected to your bodies. Mm-hmm. I think the show that you're doing now and us having these conversations is now beginning to educate men on the fact that your vulnerability is your strength. You know, because they send two brothers converse about it. We're talking about it openly. We're talking about it on a public platform. We're not behind closed doors. We're not watching football and pretending it doesn't exist. We're using our platforms and using our voices to talk about some things that have hurt us. And yet people can see that we haven't become weak. We're actually stronger in what we're doing. Our beliefs and our ability to be successful and enjoy life, man. You know, I saw one of your posts where you were in the woods talking, man. That just spoke to me. Like, you know, you out in nature and you just out with the, you know, you're experiencing God in a way that until you heal, you can't appreciate that. And so it was small things like that, seeing you in that space, that ministered to me. You know, and the words you were speaking were just, you know, that was just, you know, icing on the cake. But just to see an African American male willing to expose himself and become vulnerable to the elements and what God has given him to enjoy, without them needing money, without them needing attention, without them needing titles, you're just able to enjoy life. That speaks volumes.
Thank you so much. You know, one of the things I you know, when I was healing, it's like an addiction. I don't know if I'm completely healed of PTSD from any trauma I have, but I am healing. It is a process of a journey that I am constantly working on every breath I take. And I don't want to get into the Police song, every breath you take, you know, but the thing is, that's funny is, but every breath you do take, that's a choice for you. And that is that is the decision you're making to work that process. And that process is important.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you bring that into reality, because a lot of times we don't realize, you know, talking about your pain creates a rhythm in the earth, right? You're creating a energy force that kind of summons all the angelic forces and those forces in the world that are meant to help you process your healing. They are attracted to you as a result of that. By not speaking to it, you kind of repel those forces that God meant for you to have your angels away. And so I love what that you said about, you know, being able to healing, ing. You should never add ed to heal, because you'll always be ing, healing, because once you get to that spot where you think you're already healed, you stop being intentional about your own healing. And so that's why I get in trouble a lot of times when I tell churches, don't tell people, you know, one time can heal them. You know, sure, God, the creator, can do that. But that's not the preferable way to do it, because it's a walk in a relationship. You heal through relationships. You can't heal in isolation. And that's what we don't understand as men, that we think we're in a relationship, but we're in partnerships, and there's a difference. You know, partnership is transactional, which means if you do, I do, right? Relationships are not transactional. They just, I'm here for you, and you're there for me. So I think this show and this platform and us talking about it is drawing energy all over the world. And I think one of the things that I have to be mindful of, at least, is to not to look at the progress.
Yes, but the process.
A lot of times people are slow to come to this way. They so used to being in the matrix that when you give them an out, that you know you heard the allegory of the cave, right?
Yeah,
Like, they've been in the dark so long, the light blinds them, and so Jesus even said it. He said people have become so used to the darkness that they don't want to come into the light. So I think it's a process, and from brothers like yourself and myself and other people who do the work, is to stay encouraged, because I can tell you it's discouraging when you release stuff that you know can help people and they don't really gravitate to it.
You know, and one of the things I was actually talking with somebody today about, why is it difficult for people to accept what they don't recognize in themselves? And I like to ask myself these questions and write them down, because I don't want to always just to say, well, if you are not accepting this, then you're not ready for it. I don't believe in that all the time, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the times people don't know if they're ready, and how would they ever know they're ready until you put your hand on them and say, hey, I'm here to listen to you. And that's why we did this Voices to Be Heard. We're here to listen to you, not judge you, not give you therapy, not do none of that, because those things will take place once you open your mouth and speak.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love what the therapist Greenspan said. She said when listening is not available, the healing process is aborted. Like healing happens because you listen. If you read the Bible and these things, and I tell people, understanding this enriches your study and your reading. Because when you hear Jesus listening to people, what it is that you want me to do for you, what is it that ails you, he listens to the problem rather than before he even gives assistance to the people. And so that's where the healing comes from, being listened to. And I think that's our most powerful asset. Because we're listening spirits. If you don't believe you're listening spirits, try to go and sit and don't hear your own self talk your thoughts. The problem is we ignore them. And because we're not listening, we continue to move through life. And that's why, the ability to hear. Because once you block out your own pain, you make yourself deaf to other people's pain.
Right.
And so it's a great tool. And I tell people that's one of the greatest assets you can have. And listening is not the absence of sound, it's the inability to hear sound. There's no such thing as silence. The silence is the inability to hear sound, not the absence of sound.
One of my, with my kids, and most people know this, I have 7 daughters and 2 sons, and in all many aspects of my children, I actually am very involved in everything I do when it comes to these shows, because I take it personally, because it is happening to me personally, and I like to share personally what I am doing, what we are doing, what you can do, the struggles of it. So one of my daughters said to me, she called me, which is the blessing. She says, "Dad, I'm spiraling." And I said, "That's okay." She goes, and she started crying, and we're on FaceTime. She says, "I'm spiraling out of control, and I just don't know what to do." And I said, "You know what you just did? You did the best thing you could do. You called." Yeah. You call, we were just there to listen, and then we got to laughing about other things, and then I said, "Let me ask you something, honey. Have you thought about what you could do for you when you recognize that you're spiraling?" She goes, "I never recognize when I'm spiraling down. I just know when I'm there." And I said, "That's so beautiful." Right? I said, "That's so beautiful." She goes, "Huh?" I said, "Do you know how amazing it is for you to recognize when you're in a slump where you're like, I think I'm stuck?"
And that's amazing that she can recognize that, can feel it, and not only feel it, but reach out to another spirit that can say, "You know what? I want to express who I am, because I know someone who's willing to listen and be there with me and be present during my ability to express this thing that I'm going through." And I don't have to worry about judgment. I don't have to worry about, them trying to tell me how I should feel. They're just listening to my feelings. And that creates a connection. I always tell people, stop complaining. Instead of complaining, become curious. Curiosity will create a connection. And only through that connection can you communicate. And so I tell people, like your daughter did, she was curious. Like, wow, I'm catching this. Right?
Yeah.
And that's why meditation is so powerful, because for once you slow down enough and you're listening, like who's doing the talking and who's doing the listening, right? That becomes the real struggle. Like, okay, I hear things, but who's this talking and who is this listening? So it becomes very powerful.
Let me give people an idea. When Kevin is talking about meditation, when we talk about meditation, when you read about meditation, when you hear about meditation and blah, 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 people are questioning, what does meditation mean? Now, meditation can mean many things. That is true. But let me put it to you this one thing. It is not the absence of thinking about anything. It's slowing down so you can see the one thing, and the one thing after the other. It's like taking tickets coming through the gate. If you at the ticket booth coming in for a sporting event, you want one ticket at a time. One ticket at a time. Yes, there's a whole lot of people coming in through the gate, and those are your thoughts. But as you take the ticket, you have to look at it. And as you look at it, that's meditation. Just look at each thought as a ticket. Not that you're ignoring, But once you give it light, and light comes from your eyes, when you recognize within yourself that I see something, it shines bright, and those edges of darkness, they fall away. Yes, you still have to do the work, but that's meditation.
Yeah, I love that analogy, the tickets, because you got some ticket scabbers out there who try to get in for free.
Yeah,
that's some of those stones, man, you got to reject and say, hey, we're not going to play, that's not this type of game. You can't get in here. This is for serious and growth. So, it's amazing, and I think, and I was having this conversation earlier with a friend of mine, is that we've become so busy, on this wheel trying to survive, we don't slow down. Like what we're doing now, being able to listen to people have a conversation and sit still enough to take it in, right? To really be able to turn the TV off, to turn off social media. And let's talk about some each other rather than being distracted all the time, because that's what and you don't have it. That's why you're tired all the time. I tell people, I got a friend, he always tired, but he always finds himself. It's like, that's why you're tired. You're never spending time with who you are.
Right.
You're letting people from every angle pull from you, and nobody's pouring into you. So this is one of these things where I think in this new decade, starting in 2021,
right,
I think they can share something, because a lot of times I know it's happened with me. I hear wisdom as I'm talking. It's like, wow, I would have never thought that until I had a listener to hear what I had to say. And now I said something that I had to listen to, even though I was communicating it to another person.
Kevin, right? How do you think, I want to speak, because we're two men on this show right now, and I want to let people know you can give us a call. Even if you hear this show and leave a message, I will get back to you. The number is 1-888-240-8466. 1-888-240-8466. This is something that we developed to put on the show so people can call in, leave a message. And you don't have to leave your name. It can be anonymous. It's just not. This is just for you to be heard. That's why it's called Voices to Be Heard. So the question I have for you, Kevin, is this: as a young black boy, I'm saying with the ages of under 30 to like 15, going through a circumstance, what are the words? I have a hard time coming up with words to say that you don't belong in that situation that you think you're in. I don't know how to reach them. I mean, if I see it, it's different. But I'm talking about the boy that's locked in this, that's thinking, I don't know how to get out of this.
Yeah.
I really want to talk to them somehow. And I don't. Yeah.
That's one of those things where helplessness robs us of seeing different opportunities that are out there. Sometimes we see ourselves as being helpless, like there are no alternatives. And so what happens in that state is we start looking around closest to us, and we start reaching back for what somebody told us and what we're familiar with. And if you got bad influences around you, they don't know what to do. And so oftentimes when that happens, when you find yourself in a space, you said, man, you know what, I don't know what to do. Sometimes you have to get out of your familiar environments and say, you know what, I don't know what to do. I need to force myself to go to a place. It can be a book, it can be a show like this, to listen to something that I'm not normally accustomed to, pushing myself and forcing myself to think outside of my situation. Because what happens is when we get in a situation, we just think about the situation, and we get so entrenched in that situation that we're so worried about getting out of the situation. It can be a show like this, to listen to something that I'm not normally so accustomed a lot of times to pushing behind ourselves in. It's actually an opportunity to pull us out of what we have normally been out. And I've used that analogy of storms.
Yes.
No, people don't like storms, but when storms come, they show up weaknesses. They show where the weak spots are, right? When you have difficulties in your life, it shows you where you were not prepared, or where you were not on that road to preparation. And so it forces you to look at spaces in your life. For me, for instance, when I went bankrupt, I got mad, my car got repossessed, and I was thinking, man, as a man, this bad. No woman is going to want to date me, broke as I am, can't take them out to dinner. But that was just the problem. I was so focused on making other people happy and trying to make other people see me in a certain way that I was using all my resources and energy trying to impress people without trying to be the man that I needed to be. So
now that's important. That's important. Yeah. So that little piece right there, Kevin, I tell you, yeah. What is this false fallacy of the man you're supposed to be? It is this misnomer that has been perpetuated throughout all of time that says you're not the man you're supposed to be. It's like when you're on this other side of the fence, it sounds so crazy to think that those are words that people say. And yet, we know there's people listening to those words. You're not the man you're supposed to be. What man is that?
Yeah, and we've been enculturated and socialized to believe that a man is this Superman. I just did a video called "I'm Not Superman," right? Because I wanted those the figures that were given. Until you Superman, until you Batman, until you this person. And even I tell my sisters sometimes they advocate for that. Right? If a man shows any vulnerability, he's
weak
seen as someone who's weak, but really that's a man who's really strong, because that's a man who can really love, because now he doesn't have walls and to shield off any pain. Therefore, he can let love in. So that's where our women today, and I know women get mad at me when I say that they're starving for intimacy. Because men don't know how to give it, because we've been closed off by this ideal of what a man should be and how a man should feel and what a man should look like, right? And so we bought into this patriarchal type of ideal that we haven't allowed our boys to really connect with their inner selves, their youthful selves, their curious selves, their abilities to have male companionship, right?
And embrace it, and embrace that companionship. Yeah.
So instead of getting a drink, I can call a brother and say, hey, man, today is not a day for me, man. I just need somebody to talk to. I don't need advice. I just need somebody to tell how I feel, right? And so, that's the type of thing that I think we need to get back from what we've been robbed from. And it started way back. We can blame slavery.
It does.
De-emasculate the man. And so we decided to keep from getting hurt, we are detached. And so that's what men do. We detach, because that's our way of saying you're not going to hurt me or make me weak.
But do you think? Now I had thought this, and I've been writing this on what you call this an emotional science paper. I think that certain. I'm thinking like hip hop and sports and all these things. They are hurting our abused children into slave disorder, because they're trying to get to something that they are not emotionally, mentally, spiritually ready for. And that's why we have so many broken athletes, all of them, a lot of them, they're very broke after, how can this how can this athlete be broke after 5 years after leaving the XY sport? Well, because he was broken, he was mentally, emotionally, spiritually broken before it.
Yeah, and that's the saddest place to be. I always use the analogy, it's very heartbreaking to spend all your energy climbing a mountain and realize you climbed the wrong one. And that is similar to getting all the fame, getting all the money that you have and could have, all the people around you, just to realize you're still not happy. Happiness is not what you should be searching for. It should be fulfillment. And that's what we're selling. If you watch commercials on TV, that's all they're selling is happiness. They're selling a false sense of happiness to get you to buy a product, to get you to look a certain way, to get you to feel a certain way. But the reality is, and you said it, you can get all those things and still be suicidal. You can get all those things and still be an addict. Why? Because the spirit is what dictates the quality of life, not possessions. Right? So we've taught men to go out and conquer, but we haven't taught them how to really become and how to really sit and be present, and be present around them. Doctor, is that when you're present, you draw people to you, and they won't even know why they're drawn to you. But they'll feel a sense of energy that comes from you, that emanates from you. That's what Jesus had,
Right.
We talk about all this healing power, but he had presence, right? When he's walking and this woman touches him, somebody touched me. I felt a presence.
I felt the presence.
And so I think that's what we need to teach men. A lot of our men are absent.
Well, they're absent from themselves.
Yeah. They're absent. And the women are feeling it. A woman that they're starving for the intimacy that they think they can have the man, because the muscles don't bring the intimacy.
No.
The Bugatti don't bring the intimacy. When you get a brother who's present, you'll know it. Because he don't need to ask you questions. He can sense your energy. And he won't try to fix you. He'll allow you to be you.
So, we have these medications that are coming out that we're pumping in front of these kids. And I know there's a lack of nutrition. I know there's all these other sciences behind it that I disagree with. And I know that a lot of young boys, young women don't see themselves as anything. And that's also a hurtful sickness. And once you don't see yourself as anything, then you already start out as worthless, which allows the abuser to attach to you, because it doesn't matter what the abuser looks like or is, but it allows the abuser to attach to you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sickness is a business to keep you sick.
Yeah,
right. And then I can market to your sickness, because I can say, I'm gonna build a liquor store in your community, because when you get depressed, you can just go back down the street and get your bottle of liquor. Right? I'm gonna make it easy and accessible to you to be numb, but I'm gonna make it hard for you to be healed. And so I get in trouble because I said Jesus was murdered because he was healing people, because healing people affects the economy, because those in power want to keep you sick. So then they can prescribe to you what they say will help you. And so you go and buy what they're prescribing, and it's not to get you well, it's to get rid of the symptoms of your sickness, but not to heal the sickness. It's to keep you coming back for more medicine. And so therefore, the owner of Pfizer, right, he just came out with this, they came out with this cure for his COVID, but they found out today that he sold some of his other stock, $5.6 million of other stock, so he can buy some more of his own stock, because he knows that people are going to need this vaccine, and his stock's going to skyrocket, and so he's going to get rich, So, and that's why they wanted this whole herd mentality. Let's not fix COVID. Let people get it.
Yeah,
so
let people get it.
Medicine. Yeah, and that's an old Roman trick. Rome used to do that. And
I told people, brother, I was telling people, I said, Rome did the same thing.
Yeah.
to Germany.
They would send insurrectionists into a city to cause trouble.
Yes.
And then they would call on the Romans to come help them get rid of the insurrectionists, not knowing that Rome was the one who sent them. So then Rome comes in, all hail Caesar, right? Caesar's the savior of the people.
Yep.
So he came in and saved us. No, Caesar was the one who sent the problem to you. And so that's why when Jesus comes and says, I'm the savior of the world, I'm the king of the Jews, it creates this whole political landscape where now Caesar is under question. And so that's the whole struggle when people miss when they study this story about Jesus.
And again, it goes back to that self-connection. You missed the part of Jesus because you keep looking out.
Yeah.
And there's where you get missed. So now, once you look out, you start to subjugate yourself to analysis. Like, what if? And how come? And what about, if you were looking in to find Jesus, those questions were already being answered.
Already answered. Like, why is this carpenter, right, going around healing people, and why is there such a problem with the healing? So that's what, just like with the prodigal son, people always look at the prodigal son story of him going away. But when I look at the prodigal son is what do you do when you give a man resources before he's ready, right? So watch the downfall. That you give somebody something that they're not ready for. And that's what happens to a lot of our men and our people in society. They want things they're not ready for spiritually. When you're spiritually ready, and if you notice, God always prepares you spiritually, right? This whole idea of being a shepherd to sheep, you have to become spiritual, being in the desert, in the wilderness. And so that's the healing process. Like, I want you to confront those things, right? Esau, Jacob, you got to go back and face Esau. Like Moses, you got to go back and face Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
David, you got to go face Goliath.
Because you got to face it. You have to face it.
Yeah, because I got to make you face what you're running from. Right? Because if I don't make you face what you're running from, you'll never be ready to possess what I want you to have. That's why they couldn't go to the promised land. A lot of our brothers can't go to the promised land because they're too afraid of feeling the pain that's associated with the healing process.
And it is, and let's get this straight. It is very painful. This is not a secret. This is not something you can just walk through and be cleansed. The process of healing is it is a painful process. And the reason why it's painful is because it's been embedded inside of you for such a long time, and everything on top of it has to be broken up, stripped away. And it doesn't just go away. You have to still comb through it. Yeah. And understand the reason, not the why, the reason.
Yeah. Because you got to look back at some of those decisions that brought you here. And without blaming, I think one of the problems I had is I was blaming. I was pointing out and saying them, they. And I wasn't looking at the power I had to shift my decision making, my consciousness around what I was doing and what I was in. Right? And so it was like, okay, and here's the thing I tell people, even in the beginning of the story about the two trees. I'm not gonna get into that. That's the whole but when man started looking for measurement, he lost his ability to find meaning. And anytime you find measurement, you'll never beat enough. That's why man and woman saw themselves as inadequate and naked, even in the presence of God. We've lost our ability to seek meaning because we're so busy seeking measurement. The world and those in power, they benefit from you seeking measurement because they're going to tell you what you should look like. They're going to tell you what you should drive, what your house should look like, how many streams of income you should have. But if you lose your meaning, I think Jesus says something like this: what would it profit a person to gain the whole world but lose the meaning for their existence?
So isn't that the thing that how we get to our people who are in abuse relationships or is being abused or have been abused? Is they ask that question, what is my meaning? Yeah.
What is this? Because that's what's keeping them there.
Right.
Because they think their life means nothing and they have nothing to provide in a relationship that they find themselves in, and they're somewhat drawn to the belief system that I can never leave or never be worthy of anything because I don't measure up to anything. So in a way, I deserve the punishment even though I don't like the punishment. Right. Until you change the beliefs, you can't change the situation.
I just want everybody to think, you listen to Kevin McNeil and then Dr. Paul, and Tamara Randolph is out. She's not feeling well. She does send her love and her blessings. We do have this every other Wednesday. So not this Wednesday, next Wednesday coming up, every other Wednesday. So it's 2 Wednesdays a month. We do Voices to be Heard. You can call the number 1-888-240-8466 if you have any questions. I do get the message. It does come through on a line that I do check. So if you have anything, if you want to speak about anything, if you want to have it talk about us and you just want to hash it out, but we're here to hear the voices, and that's why we're talking. And Kevin and I, we're talking about the things that we are missing, and I hope it's not putting you in a defensive measure like, oh, I don't do that, and I feel sometimes when we've been in those rooms, Kevin, when we're talking like this, and I could just see some of the people I've had group sessions with, they're like, no, and they're doing all these. Because they're griping with understanding. And you don't have to understand. You just have to release.
That's it. And become curious. Curiosity, I'm always curious. That's what makes me a reader. When I listen to somebody, instead of letting my emotions and my beliefs take over, here's what I tell people. Everybody just have a problem with it. I said, when you believe nothing, you can do everything. And then some people say, well, Jesus says he who believes, all things are possible for him who believes. Yes, he said all things, but he didn't say everything, right? So what you believe becomes what you're able to do. But if you believe nothing, anything is possible, right? Because your beliefs are constrictions.
Yes.
Right? If I believe I'm good, then it's limited to my definition of good. Can I be better?
Yeah.
I'll be great, right? So I try to get rid of all beliefs, suspend all belief, so that I can hear and become a good listener. And because when you're able to listen, you're able to hear yourself say things about yourself that you would never say to somebody else. Right? You know, when you think, oh man, that was stupid. You don't realize your spirit recognizes your voice more than any other voice, including God. So if you say you're stupid, your spirit picks that up and believes it.
I did on Mondays. I do Mental Health Mondays, and I talked about mirror cells. And the mirror cells has everything to do with first your process of thought, and everything you say, your body reacts chemically to you. So anything if you don't speak through compassion and love. No, we're not talking about disagreements. You can have a disagreement and still have compassion and love. But when you speak negatively, if you think negatively, those cells are reacting to that chemical change in your body, and your body will store that sickness. And so those mirror cells would do that. And so most people say, well, it's not what I said. It's not what I was thinking. It's what I said. No, it's what you're thinking.
Because thinking all words, you just haven't spoken them yet.
Right.
Your thoughts are more powerful than your words because your thoughts wire your brain, and your brain speaks what you're thinking. So everything you speak is a reaction to what you thought. So a thought, because we don't pay attention to them, we think that we're doing something for the first time when you already created it in your head. That's what makes visualization so powerful.
Yes.
You know, because Jesus, I think it was God who told Abraham. He says, look up to the sky, right? He said, if you can count the stars, so should it be your descendants. But he only told Abraham that after Lot left. Right. Because people didn't understand Lot means blindness or covering.
That's the original Hebrew text, and that's why. Kevin, man, most people thought Lot was a thing. No, Lot is a. See, that's where the Hebrew text comes in, right? Yeah. When you read the original, it means blindness, right? Yeah. Lot left means the blindness left.
Yeah. So he was able to see. That's why God tells them, now look. Right. Because the people you had yourself around you, you were blinded by a loyalty to someone.
Yes.
That couldn't get you to the places where you needed to be because your vision was obscured.
Yes.
By their understanding of what life is and what it should be. And so a lot of times when we start talking about this maleness issue, we've been blinded that our power because we've been given a definition that we've held on to, and we regurgitated it to our kids and our sons and to our women. And so we're missing the essence of being because we have added this limitation on our essence. And so we are buying into these definitions that were given to us, and we're not questioning it. Like, what is this, right? And so to hear two African-American men come on and talk about abuse and be open about it, it messes up the paradigm. It messes up the whole structure, the status quo of this is not man-like, right?
Right.
We're not talking football. We're not talking, cigars. We're not talking sports. We talk about essence and being and feelings and, right? It's like, what is this? What is I'm listening to? So I think we have to get back to that. And I think we're getting to that space and place. I think the consciousness of people will awaken to that. I just hope it happens in our time.
I really believe, and it's not because I have a belief. We keep working, right? We keep moving. And in this time frame, and being a science guy, time is what is time, and so let us keep doing this. Yeah. Let us keep changing that vibration. Let us keep changing the circulation of that false narrative of those constructs, because those constructs are your conflicts. And those conflicts are confusing to you, and that is where your consciousness is. So for you to be
I like that.
I like
that.
Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, because you just gave me a whole new definition of conflict, right? Like the encounter, right? Like this is something to pay attention to. I always tell people, God interrupts you to get your attention, right? And you go in the back. You see these patterns of interruptions. He interrupts David, right? Interrupts Saul. He interrupts, you know, all these prophets, and when God life's interruptions is to get your attention to listen. Moses sees the burning bush. He's interrupted from his status quo, his normality, his formality, his, you know. So this, I think, like you said, this conflict, because now interruption conflicts with what you thought you knew. Right? It conflicts with who you thought you were. And so now either you struggle with the conflict or you go back into what you're used to.
Right.
And most people do to go back to what they used to. It's the difference between the narrow and the wide roads, paths that you used to go up.
And once you go backwards, you go into your lower level of animal self. Mm-hmm. You never get to your higher self. Once you go backwards, you stay stuck in lower level field.
Yeah, yeah, and you not only go back, you become even more stuck, because you've over some of your power to go back. Mm-hmm. It takes twice as power to go back. It just seems easier than it does to go forward, and that's the lie. Most people think it takes more effort and energy to go forward. It may appear that way in the beginning, but the real effort and energy is really pulling yourself back, because it's naturally, that's why your eyes is in the front of your head. That's why your prefrontal cortex, the planning part of your brain, is in the front of your head, because you're meant to go forward and not to go back.
One of the simplest things I used to do in the martial science when people come to me and study the art and stuff, I said that to them, it's easy for you to go forward than backwards. They'd say, what do you mean? I said, okay, so walk backwards.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's not, it is a concentrated effort for you to walk, because you're not used to walking backwards. Now, walk forwards. There it is. That allows you, that tells you right there, it's easy to go forward than backwards.
It is, yeah. So, you know, you're trying to go backwards, you looking over yourself, you cautious.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out where you're going before you get there. You know, you're premeditated, you're always cautious, and you can't live that way. But that's how most of us live.
Yes, backwards.
We live backing up. Yeah, we live backing up. And we're not meant to live back. We're meant to move forward.
Thank you, Kevin. We keep this short and sweet. Voices to be heard every other Wednesday. You can always give us a call here at 1-888-240-8466. Thank you, Kevin. You're welcome to come on anytime. I'll let you know when we come on to join us. Because talking about abuse, talking about the substance of abuse, talking about healing through abuse, talking about just giving the voice to abuse so it kills that darkness. Because with these holidays and people drinking more and the drugs and stuff, people are being more abused. It's on the rise. We know it. We know it from the teachers. We know it that the kids are getting more abused. It's sickening and sad, but it is true.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, as always.
Thank you so much. And God bless. So you want to pray us out, Mr. Kevin, please?
Yes, I can. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. We thank you for your spirit, oh God. You said with 2 or 3 are gathered in your midst, there you are in the midst, causing change, causing transformation, and causing resurrection. God, we thank you that you have resurrected us to be a new being, even in this space and place, in this small time that we've gathered and spoke. God, you have changed us for the better. And we ask and pray, oh God, that you allow us to use this change to bring change into the world. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.